Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Cook County Board of Commissioners regular meeting today, Tuesday, March 12th. And if we'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first item is to make any adjustments or changes to today's agenda. Do we have any?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a change to the requested change to county miscellaneous fees. Publication didn't happen, so I'd like to, maybe you could do it now, or when it comes up on the item, we just schedule it for 2 weeks from now.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll schedule it 2 weeks from now. Thank you. All right. Any other changes to the agenda or adjustments? Hearing or seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starley. We have a motion and support to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have our public comment period, an opportunity for citizens to appear before the county board. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak today? Anyone here in the boardroom who wishes to speak? Are there any written comments that have been received by commissioners or our administrator?
No, ma'am.
All right, we will close our public comment period and move on to our consent agenda items. So we have A through G. Just for the public, item E, the CSAH 17, that is Mineral Center Road, if people are unfamiliar with that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, or would a commissioner like to pull an item?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. We have a motion. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support for our consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this point, we're going to go on to item 4, which is about our capital improvement plan and abatement bond awards. And we're going to pause for just a second while we wait for a connection here.
All right. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey there. We've got you live, and we're on the item 4 on our agenda, which is the bond awards.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for taking me at the top of your agenda. I have to duck into another county board meeting after this, and so I really appreciate your flexibility. But I am here to present the very positive results from yesterday's bond sale. We took bids on the county's behalf at noon yesterday, and as you can see from the sale day report, we received 8 bids on the county's behalf, which was really tremendous. We're always happy when we get at least 5 or 6, and then more than that is just a sign of both a really strong marketplace for the county's bonds, as well as the market's familiarity and comfort with the county's credit rating and credit worthiness. So congratulations to you on that result. And the winning bid from TD Securities out of New York was substantially better than what we had estimated in our pre-sale report. Their true interest cost, or TIC, was 3.13% for this bond issue, and we had been estimating closer to 3.4%, actually a little bit higher than that. So we're over a 0.25% better or lower than what we had projected. And if you go onto the bid tabulation page of the document, you can see really how aggressive the bidding was, at least among the first several bidders, with TD closely followed by SWBC and Morgan Stanley and so forth. So really nice to see those results. Going back up to the TD result on the bid tabulation, you can see this dynamic that we've discussed before and that the county has received before, which is called premium pricing. In other words, the coupon rate on these bonds is uniformly 4% for every maturity over the 15-year term of the bonds. But if you go to the reoffering yield, you can see that the actual yields or the true cost to the county is much lower than that, ranging from 2.65% up to 3.3%. So in order to receive those 4% coupons when their actual true yields are less than that, the winning bidder needed to bid more than the par amount of the bonds, and that's where you can see that they bid almost $3 million. You can see the price there of $2.964 million for this bond issue that had a face value of about $2.775 million. So with that, because we knew that the county needed only a very specific amount for the projects, roughly $2.67 million, excuse me, we were able to use the premium pricing from the winning bid to reduce the size of the bond issue. And that's why the actual final par amount of the bonds is $2,570,000, or roughly a little over $200,000 less than what we went out to market with. So you probably noted both on the cover of the sale day report and the resolution this new and final par amount of $2,570,000. So really great results. If you just are scanning through the debt schedules themselves for the bond issue after restructuring, you can see that annual debt service for the CIP and abatement portions combined will be about $230,000 per year. That's about $8,000 per year less, between $5,000 and $8,000 per year less, excuse me, than what we had projected in the pre-sale report. And the total benefit of those lower interest rates is about $80,000 of lower interest costs than what we had estimated previously. So, and then finally, what I wanted to share with you after scrolling through those sales debt schedules is the county's credit rating with S&P. Once again, we had a very positive, very congratulatory, really, conversation with Charlie and Emma from S&P. They were the same analysts that have worked on the county's previous credit ratings, so they're already familiar with Cook County, the unique dynamic of the local economy and the North Shore. And really, the county came through the credit rating review with flying colors. They were very pleased to see the continued emphasis on strong fund balances, really strong and conservative budgeting practices, conservative being a good thing in the eyes of the rating agencies, and really had no qualms about reaffirming the county's AA rating with a stable outlook. And as I've noted before, for a relatively small and remote county, a AA rating, again with that stable outlook, is really tremendous. It's a great sign that you're doing everything you can to put your best foot forward and for the financial stability of the county. So why don't I stop there and see if you have any questions about the bids that were received, the restructuring of the bonds to account for the premium, the final debt service schedules with the lower annual payments due, or the credit rating. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have questions?
I don't know if
Auditor
it's
Powers?
a question, Bruce, but I looked back on a few of our other issuances, and this reoffering, it seems huge in comparison to the overall bonds. I mean, we've seen 200,000 plus reofferings before, but they were on $10 million bonds, $15 million bonds. So on a two,
Right.
less than three, maybe it's way different. Is that the interest rate environment we're in, or what? What do you think?
It is, Brady, and thank you for asking that. We're actually seeing that pretty much across the board with most bond issues, at least 4% coupons, and in some cases, 5% coupons. So it was not at all unusual to get these 4% coupons, and because rates have improved, true rates, if you will, the true yields on the bonds, and since investors still want those high coupons, that means more premium. And as long as we maintain the flexibility to restructure the bonds to get to the same level debt service, right, or level debt service at a lower level than what we had projected in the pre-sale report, we really have no qualms about that, because it is just rejiggering principal and interest in getting to a better overall result for the county. We would have some concerns if things got a lot more out of whack, if you will, because then it would make it harder to restructure bonds, and that would, not be to the county's benefit. So if that trend really gets more exaggerated, we would probably start putting on some bidding restrictions to prevent underwriters from going, to the full extreme, if you will. But it worked out really well with this bond issue for the county.
Thanks.
Are there other questions that commissioners may have? Any other questions? So if not, we would want to approve by resolution the new amount, $2,570,000. That's the corrected amount.
Yeah, and in your board packet, the old resolution was there with the 2,775.
Right.
Now, if you open that up, you'll see the new
Right.
amount, the $2,570,000, and match what happened on the sale day.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the issuance, sale, and delivery of $2,570,000 of general obligation bonds, Series 2024A, establishing the terms and form thereof, creating a debt service fund therefore, and awarding the sale thereof.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Is there support?
I'll
All right, I heard Commissioner White first. I'm like, all right. Thank you, Commissioner White. So we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Bruce, for facilitating and getting these just excellent deals for us, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Mills. And that reminds me of one other thing I just wanted to note. This didn't come up on the rating call, but it came up in a later conversation with the credit analysts. The S&P analysts were very pleased and impressed with the work that the county and the county board has done in recent years on its CIP. I know it's for taking care of important projects and deferred maintenance and things that just need to get done, but it really shows to them that you're trying to address the needs and not let them get out of hand, and that you're thinking to the future needs of the county as well. And I don't know where exactly the Judicial Center project will go, but they were keen to hear about that and the planning that you're doing on that front as well. And it just shows that you're not waiting until the last minute to, slap on Band-Aids and just catch things as they crop up, but you're really thinking thoughtfully about your facilities and the county's needs, both for the staff and for the public, and they were complimentary of the work that you've done and of the work that you're doing going forward.
That's really good to hear.
That's what I was going to say, is both just the comprehensive investigation they do into us, and just to get that feedback that it's favorable for on the money side of things too.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other further discussion? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you, and have a good morning. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 5. I see Assessor Thompson is here to talk to us a little bit about some abatements. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So today I have 3 abatements on the agenda. 2 of these are parcels that the tribe had recently enrolled into the trust. So we will be abating the last 2 years of taxes, and they're exempt moving forward. I don't know if you guys want to handle them individually or just go through them all at the end, but the third abatement is for property out on County Road 14. They had a fire back in July of 23, and the arson investigation has closed. There was no wrongdoing, so they do qualify, and they applied for that abatement.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Assessor Thompson? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the 3 abatements.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to abate the 2 tribal-owned parcels enrolled in the trust with the deed recorded 8-25-2022, as well as the 1 disaster abatement for that was lost to fire on 7/11 of 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we see that Jay DeCou is here with us this morning. Talk a little bit about the land lease at 361 Old Ski Hill Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Okay, so I think this is one of the last ones that I have to go through. So one of my charges in the position, radio communication analyst, is to oversee all of the land leases and manage the tower facilities that are owned by the county. In going through those leases and those co-locations over the past several years, I've discovered a number of leases that had either expired or that were subprime for the county. This WDSC lease fit both of those criteria. Whereas in the 90s, when that tower was put up, it was put up under the understanding that WDSC would provide public television services to the community, as well as co-location opportunities for the backbone of the emergency alert system, which is Minnesota Public Radio in Minnesota. So they were given a 20-year lease in 1999 that had no money attached to it whatsoever. Since then, the television service has gone away. MPR is still on that tower. However, the standards for market rate for tower space have changed dramatically, which then entered us into negotiations to redo the space. Also, that tower consumes a tremendous amount of space up on that county-owned parcel. And complicates the design of roads and running of infrastructure. So having WDSC pay something for their presence there seemed more than appropriate. The typical market rate for this type of existing premise would be $3 per square foot. We did offer a rebate to them due to their nonprofit nature and their housing of the emergency alert system for the county. Which then came to $1 per square foot, or the $10,061.50 for the year. And then we negotiated down from the 5% commercial escalator per year to a 2%. They wanted shorter terms, which is fine with me. It was fine with us and fine with Molly when we looked through the lease. So this will put us on a set, let's see, so then we're going to have 15-year relationship with them with the 2% escalator for the initial term and every term following that. The only other thing that's a little bit different from this, with this agreement versus the other ones that I've presented to you in the past, is that because this tower has the possibility to have other commercial tenants located on it, it is in the county's best interest to have a co-location profit share on it, or revenue share on the tower, So if they were to use any of the additional space on their tower to house, let's say, like another radio station or some kind of commercial entity, like, we have pretty much all of the cell companies on our towers, so I feel like they probably wouldn't get another cell installation. But any kind of commercial installation, then the county then is entitled to a 25% profit share of the total profit for those co-locations. So then it could be a win-win for both entities. And, we went back and forth with WDSE quite a while to figure out exactly what that meant for them and like what they were willing to agree to. But I think they came to the realization that, if they're getting co-location, they're getting more money than they are right now. And so that's the cost of having a tower on county property. So that's my little spiel. Stand for questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for Rowan this morning?
Or Jay.
Or Jay?
Madam Chair.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Story.
Thank you for the updating. I'm always curious as to the height of these towers. How many little people can be on there?
Well, this is the tallest tower in the county. This one is over 300 feet tall,
Yeah.
and if you look at that tower, you'll see that there are a couple of beta antennas right at the top, and so that's pretty prime location. They could effectively put other tenants on that tower going down till about 160 feet before they start running into problems with the hillside and with like the Maple Hill area behind it as far as propagation. So they have a couple hundred feet that they could work with, probably 150 feet they could work with. The market is not super saturated right now with people who are trying to get onto towers. I know that there is one radio station that would love to jump in, but that's a complicated tower to work on because we have WTIP up there blasting a ton of power, and we've got NPR up there blasting a ton of power. They'd have to put some pretty significant filters up there to be able to get a clean signal off of that tower. So what I'm thinking it mainly would be, like if a TV station wanted to put some kind of a booster up here, or if it was another smaller cellular carrier that was looking for coverage, would step into a place like that. It's not a huge likelihood, but I still felt like it was a good idea to have that written into the contract just so they're aware that we're paying attention.
Yeah. Okay,
So.
thank you.
Other questions?
Yes, Commissioner. What's the life expectancy of the structure itself?
That's a really good question. And so the tower, to my understanding, was built in the early 90s up there, and those towers can expect to have a serviceable life of about 50 to 60 years. So we're talking it's middle aged right now. But that tower has also had some damage and has had some repair done to it already. So one of the things I did as part of this whole process was ask them for their most recent structural inspection for the tower. And that was done about, let's see, it's 2024, about 8 years ago. And it gave it a clean bill of health. So it said there was no corrosion, everything was looking good. The maintenance that they had done for it was all they needed to do. So it will well outlast this agreement. And then at that point, when this agreement expires, that'll be their opportunity to say, do we want to replace this? I also did put into the agreement a clause that says if they wanted to replace the tower, that this agreement would stay in effect as long as they didn't change the height of it, like as long as they didn't change like the actual specs of the tower. So they could replace the tower with something the same or similar or shorter, which we're totally okay with, but they can't go taller.
Commissioner, and so the corrosion would be at the excuse me, at the corners or where the crossbars.
Most of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, is it a single welded thing or is it bolted in place?
These towers are built in 20-foot sections, and so they come in 20-foot boltable sections. And so a lot of times when the corrosion on a tower compromises its strength or compromises its integrity, it's because of the bolt. It's not
Okay.
because of the actual frame itself. The frame themselves are often very well galvanized and will outlast the bolts. So that's the point where inspections really need to be. That's why they're really important. You could lose a couple of bolts, and then your tower doesn't stay up this way.
How frequently are they inspected?
The count, well, this is one of the things too that I talked to them. They inspect theirs once every 10 years, which is industry standard. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The county, we inspect all of our towers every 3 years. So we just like to stay ahead of it. We'd rather not have something get out of control. And we've found that the maintenance that we've had to pay on our towers after inspecting them for 3 years is in the long run much, much less than if we waited longer. So.
Thank you for
And it
doing
keeps a
that.
good, strong relationship with the tower crews, so they like coming up here. So,
That's great. Other questions? All right. So is there a motion to approve the land lease between Cook County and WDSE?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Commissioner Mills.
Thank you for all your work and your negotiating skills and your attention to detail and your ability to explain it all to us, too. Really appreciate it.
In a way we can understand.
I've been in those chairs. It helps.
All right, we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you very much, and I will get a signed copy from the WDSE folks, and we'll finish it all up.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Great.
Jay.
Thank you. Have a good day. We'll move on to item 7, Human Resources. And we have Allison Plummer with us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So today I have another batch of, oh, with the sun, my really dusty. Amplifies the dust. No, it's good. It's good. The sun is good. Okay. Just makes me realize how dusty my screen is. Okay. Today I have another batch of job description reviews for you. So this batch includes 7 positions within the county. And compared to the last time where I had a huge batch, I can actually name these ones. So today we have the fiscal officer. It's just an updated job description. I do want to note that I did have an error in the grade that I represented in the actual agenda item. I listed it at 140. That should actually be a 160. I must have had the account tech position in my head when I typed this. But all of the attached materials, including the memo from DDEA and the revised job description, do show a 160. So it's just a typo on my part. I apologize for that. We have the public safety telecommunicator / jailer position, so what we think of our dispatchers, so updated job description and a change in a grade. We've got the deputy sheriff positions, an updated job description and change in grade. We've got the chief deputy sheriff / investigator position, that's also an updated job description and increase in grade. The community center assistant, that is a revised job description, no change in grade. We have the county assessor, both updated job description and a change in grade, and the assessor's appraiser positions, that is also an updated job description and change in grade. So with the 7 positions, 2 of the positions have that unchanged grade. This will impact 15 staff. So another great batch of encompassing multiple staff that will see a nice impact on their compensation.
Any questions for Allison this morning? Commissioner Mills.
Can you please remind me of the number that we have to go through yet, as far as descriptions?
Ooh, that's hard because it's
Okay.
if we're not looking at staff numbers, because obviously the job
Okay.
titles
Mhm.
have potentially multiple staff, like the social workers upstairs are still working on theirs.
Yeah.
So and it's hard because they've got kind of some jumping all over the place depending on status of positions.
I won't hold you to
So,
the number.
I mean, we're about halfway.
Okay.
So we had a total of 83 positions on the list.
Thank you.
And so this is a 2-year process, and we are now over the 1-year mark. There is some follow-up from last year, but very few. So I would say just singular positions, not counting the number of staff in some of those positions, yeah, about halfway.
Thank you. Other questions? Commissioner Hawkins?
Thank you. So, reading through these job descriptions, and again, I'm kind of confused about qualifications. So, minimum qualifications, and I'm education and experience. Now, we require a 4-year degree for some positions. Other ones, we say high school diploma plus 2 years of other degree or whatever, education. And I'm wondering how consistent these educational minimum qualifications we require relate to other counties. And has DDA brought this up that maybe we are more restrictive on our applicants? And does it really require a 4-year degree to do that job?
Good question. Yes. So when DDA is reviewing the job descriptions, part of that review is to look if the minimum qualifications, including education and experience, are in line with what the market is dictating. So I think statewide and even at the state level, I think Governor Walz took away that 4-year college degree requirement for state positions. So yes, that is something that I don't have the experience or the knowledge to know. So Tessa, when she's reviewing this with DDA, she is looking at that and making recommendations of like, yeah, we're seeing this is probably going to make your applicant pool much smaller if you have this higher level of degree of minimum qualifications. So she is providing that feedback. It's also very position based. So we have social workers, et cetera, that are, and say deputy sheriffs, where they may require those positions naturally require a higher level of degree of education. But again, Tessa's really great at providing some of that feedback of like, I think it would be a good idea to knock this education or experience down and really pull in a larger applicant pool that really could have those skills and be trained on the job versus requiring a lot of that education and experience beforehand.
Thank you. I think especially since it's being discussed at the state level and other places, I just want to make sure we're factoring that in, that we may be restricting our pool.
Right.
If we are too restrictive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's really important because we don't want to restrict a really small applicant pool that we already have. Yes.
Okay.
And it's really, there's a big focus. I remember at the AMC conference, there is a larger focus being put on the skills that people have versus the education. I mean, I think back of how many people graduated with a college degree that they don't even use, right? So it's about what skills and experience people can bring that's maybe even not related to the job, but they will still be a great fit, a great learner, and a really productive employee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of the job descriptions listed: fiscal officer, public safety telecommunicator and jailer, deputy sheriff, chief deputy sheriff and investigator, community center assistant, county assessor, and assessor's appraiser.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to approve the job description updates as listed, with the exception being the fiscal officer at that 160 instead of the 140.
Correct. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much for your work, Allison.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to item 8, Attorney Hicken.
Yes, thank you. So what I have on the agenda today is a proposal from a trainer who we engaged consulting to prepare for some type of a board retreat training session on board communication, the Robert's Rules of Order. So this is something that we do periodically. I can think of 2 other trainings of boards that we've done, which is to enable healthy and productive conversations at the board level, keeping our conversations and decision-making productive, even when there's conflict in opinions and conflict in communication styles and all of that. One thing I really like about this proposal is how the rules of order are integrated into the training as a tool, since they are designed for meetings where we can make decisions despite conflict, and it's a set of tools that's already there, and that I'm not sure any of us are the best parliamentarians or have the best knowledge of the Robert's Rules of Order and how they can help us in that effort. But I guess in my agenda request, I kind of summarized the reasons why I think this is important. I know it's a $3,500 cost, and that's not a small number, but I really think that the value of this training comes from the way it will enable our board to make the best decisions for our constituents, that in the end will save us money, and in the end will create the best future for the county that we can do. So it is always good to look inward, and this training kind of requires that we look inward and think about our own communication styles and our own triggers, and how we can best work together. So I hope that the board is open to this possibility. It would be possible to have this training as soon as next week. The trainer has the availability, but I understand that that's really cutting it close for scheduling purposes, and that's just, this proposal came to us just a week before this meeting, so we can schedule it out further, and I would do a scheduling poll. I'm happy to do that. So let me know if you have questions.
Well, one of the things I appreciate about this is typically we'll have training at our AMC meetings. As a board, the last couple of years, we haven't had a chance to all be together at those trainings, and so I think this is great to just bring it to us here. So thank you for exploring this. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Hawkins.
I'm curious how this firm was chosen and who else was considered, or how we determined this.
Sure. So this referral came to me from Allison Plummer and to Allison from Leah Ekstrom. So Leah, I can't tell you exactly who she consulted with or how she came to this person, but she was seeking customer service type training for staff in general. And, we might, depending on our experience here, we might also call on Rachel Tiemann for that purpose. But when the referral came to me, I saw, to me, she has exactly the right qualifications for a board development type training. I didn't explore anyone else, so, but, yep.
And is this $3,500 in our budget? Do we have a training budget that this is part of, or is this coming out of fund balance?
So I'm hoping that it would come from fund balance or from kind of the personnel development, employee development funds. Do you have that item in administrator budget?
I do not. I mean, I have a little bit of budget for training for myself and Jana and Todd, but yeah, it'd likely come out of fund balance.
And I'm wondering, next week would be out for me.
Yeah.
That day, I have 4 meetings that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then thinking about scheduling with all of our schedules, and then that pushes it out, and then this is also an election year. I'm curious of the rationale of doing this with a board with two positions that may change, and would it be better to focus on training for a full board at the beginning of January?
I guess I see the need for training right now. We're continuing to make decisions. I feel, this is something that, we probably should have had a while ago, and I probably should have pressed more to bring this training here. But I'd like to personally see us move forward with it. Commissioner Mills.
I really appreciate Commissioner Hawkins's thought there, because it's kind of like, okay, we'll get training, and then if the two positions flip or whatever, then it's kind of starting from, not zero, but, starting over again. And I wish it should have been earlier or whatever too, just so that, anyways. I do think it should be the sort of thing we have annually, whether or not it's custom and coming to us, or if we can all participate at a different AMC training or whatever. I think that's a good thing. So, probably don't want me to say this, but I think it could be, I would like it to be, now-ish as well as in January. I think January is a really good time considering potentially new commissioners. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. My other thought was just, I really want our staff and department heads and supervisors to have this kind of leadership training. Maybe not emphasis on the Roberts rules, and I'm not, very attached to Roberts rules. I think it is a really good tool, and it keeps things on task and a good flow and organization, and just a standard that is widely used. So I'm supportive of it too. It's just that emphasis doesn't attract me necessarily. I do see the value there. So kind of my back of mind hope was, if this is a trainer that we find really valuable, then it could be used beyond commissioners in the future. But I guess we just have to try and see. And yeah, I'm very open. Scheduling, I think, will be really tricky, but I'm open and grateful for the suggestion. I always like to get my skills refreshed, and just I always learn something from leadership training, just how to be a better person, let alone leader.
Commissioner Storley.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you looking into all of that. She looks very qualified. I know all the trainings that I've been to, I get a little disappointed because they don't really understand our role. And I'm hoping that she kind of maybe views a meeting, that she maybe gets a little word from us as to our position and how we represent people, which is so different than anybody who's in the marketplace or whatever. So, but, if we could do a training now and then a year from now, if we would have rotation of commissioners, they've gotten their feet a little wet, and so then they need some help probably by March or April. Yeah, I have a little conflict too on the 19th in that afternoon. I don't know, everybody, if the last week of the month is more open for folks to have, and it would be 4 hours. Would she be willing to do a morning?
I think so, yes. So I think the thought with the 19th is that this would fit well into the afternoon of a Commissioner of the Whole meeting when we're together anyway that day. But as I understand it from Commissioner Mills, you've got the EDA meeting in the afternoon of those. So, and there'll always be conflicts, but that's kind of a big conflict. So I was hoping to do it in April if we can't do it this month.
Okay.
Maybe if you could, if everybody's amenable to the training, we would do a doodle poll and, try to find a time that would work. Administrator.
Thank you. This may be heresy, but I'll say it anyway. We could also look at a Saturday. I mean, if scheduling during the week is too complicated. I've been parts of organizations before where a part of organizations before where we have done that on a Saturday morning, so if that's helpful.
Yep, I'm up for that. For sure.
Other thought is just, like what Commissioner Stroley said, as far as our role being unique, that's a really good point. And so maybe her understanding of us and our position is strong, and I'm assuming she'd be flexible with department heads too, but it might be, just different emphasis, might be a different program or whatever, but I feel like in her proposal that it does cover our roles fairly well. I just don't know how familiar is the trick.
She did, I did provide her the link to our YouTube page, and so she has watched at least one meeting.
Okay, so she kind of knows how we operate.
And, it looks like she's worked for other municipalities as well.
Yes.
Cities and counties, so has some experience there.
Any other questions for Attorney Hicken?
Madam Chair, I should also mention, we're talking about a different location than the boardroom, doing this perhaps down at the, what did you call it? That
Edward
log
Jones.
building? Yes.
Yep.
At the Edward Jones building, just to get in a different environment.
Well, different environment, and because the city is going to be using our facility, finding space and time in this building is really challenging over the next few months, so.
The other thing,
Mills.
just based, I don't like the spending out of the fund balance, spending non-budgeted funds. This isn't a huge amount. It is significant enough to give me pause when spending from fund balance, but I just I really want to advocate that we include this type of expenditure in our commissioner budgets. I think it is really important, and we just need to keep that in mind. And it's been years, I think, since there's been anything in commissioner budget for this, but I think it's really
Not since the pandemic, it all
Right.
kind of went
Yep.
away then, so.
Yeah, and it's
That's
very
a really
important
good
that
point.
we operate that way instead of, the fund balance.
All right. Commissioner Hawkins.
I'm wondering, you mentioned at a different location, and that all of us would be there together. How does that apply to open meeting law?
It is a meeting under open meeting law, so members of the public could technically be there.
So we'd have to find a space where we would have availability for the public to sit if they wanted to be there, correct? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that you would expect a bunch of people to show up, but, yeah.
I thought there was an exemption for training.
That is kind of gray area. There is, so it has been interpreted, open meeting law has been interpreted to sometimes allow trainings that are not public meetings. I've always been schooled to err on the, when there's a gray area, to err on the side of an open meeting. So that's why I give you that advice. Yeah.
All right.
In that particular space, there is room for
Yeah, there's room for
some
additional
others, but
people.
not a crowd by any means,
Yeah.
so I don't know how to navigate that.
And I don't think you need to make
Probably, yeah.
space for a crowd, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the primary objective should be to be able to work together in an environment within which you can do that. But, yeah.
And there are a number of other spaces, depending on the date that, we choose and the time, that would be available in the community, so I don't think we'd have an issue. Airport conference room is always available, so we've had meetings there as well. All right. Well.
I'd make a
Commissioner Mills.
motion then to accept the attached proposal for a half-day training designed for us, the county board, on improving organizational culture and communication with a focus on the use of Robert Rules of Order to create an efficient and professional process.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Commissioner?
Yeah, I'm still maybe I'm not opposed to having board training.
Mhm.
I guess I'm hesitant to spend out of fund balance at this time without a plan ahead. And I would like to see it with, if it's in the budget next year, that we include, I think, department heads. And, because I think that we work so closely with our department heads. And I think it's a two-way training that's needed when we're talking organizational culture. And so, in the future, when this training happens, I would like to see it expanded beyond just 5 people.
I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair. Commissioner Hawkins, are you suggesting a single training involving both department heads and the board, or like 2 separate trainings for those 2 groups?
I don't know what this person or a firm might recommend, but I could see it being interactive, where part of it is for just the commissioners, part of it is together, part of it's for, I don't know, I'm not trained in that, but I think that is very beneficial when you're sitting in this chair, that you know that the people sitting in those chairs presenting to us understand, we've all talked to each other and have a clear set of expectations of what we need to make decisions.
That's a really good point.
Well put.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 4-1. All right, we'll move on now to Auditor Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item is to request changes to miscellaneous fees. Ask for a change to the agenda today, since this was not published, to make a motion to set a date, to change the date. We could have it at the next meeting, March 26th, if that's all right, if you could set that and set a time. This time it was 8:30, and I don't, unless there's another reason, you wouldn't have to set it that early, I don't think.
All right, so we could set it up for Tuesday, March 26th, and do 9 o'clock, which is more typical of our public hearings. How does that work for everyone?
I'll make the motion to set the public hearing at 9 a.m. March 26th.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starley. We have a motion and support. We don't have any further discussion. Commissioner Mills has taken 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we'll go on to the Cook County Historical Society request to make improvements.
Yeah, so the second item is the Historical Society's request. They want to make some improvements to the metal fabrication shop on the Bill Bally Blacksmith site, including electrical service, addition of a heat panel, replacing a garage door, and addition of an exterior, similarly designed, open-sided roof structure in the yard between the buildings. This, the reason they come here with the request is that the site management agreement from 11 years ago, requires that if they're going to make changes like this to those buildings, and the change are over $5,000, that they have to request it and get approval from the county board. And this will exceed $5,000 by their own estimates and just by reading it. So just some background, although the metal building itself is not on the National Register of Historic Places, it's part of the Bali Historic Site. And then some specifics of the electrical service, removing cords from the floor, trip hazards, electrocution hazard when flooded, which has happened there. And the heat panel reduces the need to use the wood stove in the colder months, and replacing the garage door because the old door is failing and unsafe to open, and they'll fit the type of door. And then the exterior open-sided roof structure in the yards to protect better the exterior artifacts, including their old 1927 Fordson tractor and 1937 Federal truck, et cetera. Ask for any questions?
Any questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Hawkins, I see your hand going up.
Well, I'm wondering, in the management agreement, it says that the county was going to transfer the ownership of the property, and why are we still discussing this?
So there, I think both Attorney Hicken and I can respond to that. In reviewing statute, if we were to consider giving that property to the Cook County Historical Society, it requires us to publish that it's going to be sold in our local paper, and it has to be on the open market for 3 weeks. And there's a little concern that someone might try to snatch it up. And maybe you want to add on to that from your
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, that's one of the complications with selling, or with transferring ownership. So I looked into this issue and gave Commissioner Sullivan and Katie Clark of the Historical Society some things to think about, because I wasn't certain if the intent of the transfer would match up with the actual effect of the transfer of ownership. So I've asked the Historical Society to take my email on all the considerations that I put in my email back to the group and really discuss. Do they want to transfer ownership, which would mean that the obligation to insure the building would transfer to the Historical Society and would likely be much more expensive than us covering the insurance through MCIT. So, or are they looking more for a long-term lease in which the Historical Society agrees to reimburse the county for the cost of that we're paying to insure it, plus agrees to maintain it and repair it, and, you know, all of those things, akin to what we're doing now. I mean, that management agreement needs to be updated either way, because I'm not sure that, Brady can maybe comment on this, but I'm not sure that the arrangement is working exactly like it's written out in that management agreement to start with. But, so, yeah, it's kind of, I gave them kind of 3 considerations. The first is that we have to publish that offer to sell in the News Herald and open it up. And of course, the board could potentially turn down offers that it saw as not serving our educational and historic interest in keeping that building. But it would be a complication and a risk. Request that the EDA sell this property to the, oh yeah, and then there's the possibility of getting the EDA involved, because if we were to transfer this to the EDA, they don't have that same restriction of publishing the offer. So that's another complication, but a legal way to do it without publishing it on the market. Or 3, leave the property in ownership of Cook County and do the long-term lease, so.
And this hasn't been acted on by the Historical Society because they were in transition. Their president resigned, and they just voted Myron Bersheim in as their new president. So more to come in the future on all of this. Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, I'm happy to wait for the Historical Society's further thoughts and considerations. I'm curious, though, as far as that open market is concerned, and us being able to turn it down if it doesn't fit with our vision or whatever. I'd like to learn more about that, because it could be very simple if we can just say, nope, you can't turn it into condos or whatever, you know, like, then that might be super simple, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it has to
But-
stay a
Right.
historical
operating shop or something, yeah. So I'd be curious about that, but I'm happy to hear what the Historical Society kind of
Okay,
comes with.
all right.
So, Commissioner
So-
Hawkins.
The motion that was made by Dukirk, seconded by Gamble, noting the intent to transfer ownership of the property, was bad legal advice back then? Is that what, I mean, if the county board makes a statement and says, that's our intent,
Yeah.
to me, that sounds like, well, okay, it should have happened then. And I'm just trying to reconcile why we are still here today.
Yeah, I saw that too, and that was in 2013. I wasn't involved yet, but I'm not sure. I think the board entered that agreement with that intent and doesn't necessarily void that agreement, if that's the question, but yeah, I get it. I think that it's kind of a complicated question, as illustrated in my email with the numbered, all these considerations. But I have heard the boards, various commissioners comment over the years, why do we have all these properties that we can't take care of? And I understand that desire to get it off the county rolls, but I needed both parties to understand like the implications of that transfer of ownership, and so that they know what they really want here, so.
And I guess I agree with Commissioner Mills. I would like to explore that,
Sure.
whether we call it a purchase agreement or a transfer of,
Yes.
because I think there has to be a way we can facilitate that and make sure it goes where we want it to go.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm sorry.
Hopefully.
Keep interrupting.
Go right ahead,
Chair.
Attorney.
Robert's rule.
I can't recognize before you speak. And that question is one of about 5 major questions I have about bid law in general. And I think we could do a little training session so we could all learn more. So maybe I can add that to my little training schedule.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm no lawyer, right? But I don't know, is intent of an agreement binding? It's just kind of showing where things would like to go. So I think it's still our intent, right? It's just no movement happened there. And we all know all of the transitions that have happened in the last, 10 years. So I get it, but it is also frustrating. But yeah, maybe that was not the best path or whatever. I don't know. I guess I didn't go back and look at the minutes per se, but I wasn't clear that, oh no, I'm sorry.
So, and if you want to look up the statute, it's 373.01, where the statutory law is.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, I guess the thought I was trying to finish was that I didn't see it as legal advice. I just saw it as commissioner's intent, right? So I think that's why we're not bound to it right now.
There you go. There you go. Well, this is really good discussion and will help us as we move forward in decisions. But we have a decision today that we need to make related to the request for performing upgrades to the metal fabrication shop. Any questions to Auditor Powers about that? Just to bring us back full circle. All right, if not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support to perform upgrades to the metal fabrication shop done by the Cook County Historical Society. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great discussion. Administrator Yorkie.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to start off this morning by addressing a letter that we received from the Forest Service last week on Monday. This regards the reappraisal of the boundary waters and the payments in lieu of taxes that the county receives under the Ty-Blatnick Act. We have been waiting for a long time for a decision from USDA, from the Secretary of Agriculture, on what the appraised value finally is, so that we can understand, number one, what our payments are currently, what they have been for the last several years since 2018, and then also moving forward until the next reappraisal in 2028. So the letter that we got on Monday indicates that the Secretary has made a final decision. We've been waiting for a number, right? What is the appraised value? And I shared the letter with the board. And one thing that's notable about the letter is that it doesn't actually say what the appraised value is. What it does say is that the reconciled fair appraised value is approximately a 10% reduction in value from 2008. And I think it's a little bit curious that they didn't just say, here's what the appraised value is, because that's really what we've been waiting for. In any case, if in fact the new value is approximately a 10% reduction from the 2008 appraisal, then we would be looking at an annual payment. So we have been receiving about $1.9 million over the last couple of years. If the reduction is 10% over the 2008 value, then our payment in lieu of taxes from the federal government would be about $1.72 million. And that compares to the initial 2018 reappraisal, which was an almost 30% reduction over the 2008 value. And under that appraisal, our payments would have been about $1.37 million a year. So I have emailed the Forest Service to get clarification on exactly what the appraised value is. I feel like we need to know that number. But it appears that our annual payment for the remainder of this 10-year period is going to be higher than what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be about 1.37. It's going to be about 1.72. That's a difference of about $346,000 a year. So that's really good news. The other thing, the big question was, what of the funds that we were overpaid over the last number of years? And the letter indicates that counties will not have to pay that money back. So that's also really good news. So, again, we're just seeking further clarification from the Forest Service on exactly what that value is. And we will be then recalculating what that payment is going to be. And once we have more definite information about that, we'll share it with you. But on balance, this is really good news for not only for us, but for Lake and St. Louis counties as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I think a big part of the reason that we had a good outcome in this is that the three counties worked together to present a case to the Forest Service and USDA about why the initial 2018 appraisal was way off. And so a big part of our effort as a county to appeal that was led by Bob Thompson, our county assessor, and he did a really great job of pulling together a variety of data related to mineral values and other factors that the reappraisal that was done a year and a half, 2 years ago, didn't consider. And so my kudos to Bob for his work on this. Again, this is a really good thing for the county. And, it does give us more breathing room in terms of budgeting for 2025 and beyond. So I'll pause there and see if Brady has anything else that he'd like to say about it.
Yeah, just that we've set aside over $2 million in the event we would have to pay back. So that now goes right into our fund balance for either, could be capital improvements or just keeping our fund balance strong. And then this will be, I'm going to say about 300 and some thousand higher than we've been budgeting each year, because we set the rest aside. So, and we've been I've been working the middle, so to speak. Haven't been estimating the lowest, because we were working on reappraisals, and I didn't think it was a solid case to say, we're going to lose every dime of that for every one of those years. So we haven't set all of that aside that we could have, but not expecting the absolute worst, and obviously it didn't happen. So it'll be good for fund balance, it'll be good for next year's budget.
Thank you for your conservative approach to budgeting and having that money set aside.
We got kind of got used to without it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's a really good outcome for us, and it does help out in terms of not only budgeting, but planning, capital improvements. Gives us some additional resources. So any questions or comments on that?
Commissioner Mills?
Oh,
Go ahead.
thank you for your work on this, and Bob, Assessor Thompson especially. What I really appreciate your narrative with counting our blessings, because I still feel like it's an unjust number. I think Assessor Thompson built a rock-solid case that maybe wasn't ignored, but it certainly was not fully acknowledged by the federal government. And it's just frustrating that we don't have more of an explanation. It's one of those.
That we don't have a dollar amount.
Right, yes. But I do appreciate showing the sunny side, right? We're better off than where we were, significantly. I'm also happy to hear that it benefits Lake and St. Louis counties, because they're greatly impacted too. But so I have mixed feelings, frustrations, also gratitude, mostly towards staff and just where our financial standing is. That approach, I think, was most excellent. So I'm glad we can put it to rest for 10 years, I guess.
Well, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
2028.
Three years. Yeah.
Commissioner Storley?
Thank you. Well, it's been a long 2 years working with the other counties and with Bob. He did an excellent job. And one of the things that we went through was there was 2 appraisers. You don't have many appraisers in the United States, basically, who can go in there and look at the mineral rights and the property development that could happen and won't happen. But, that was the hard part, to say, how do you put a number on something that they don't even know? So I think we've come out looking quite good. And Commissioner Hawkins, there is more money in the fund balance now. And we'll spend it wisely, of course, but I think putting it toward capital improvements is one good way to say, okay, this is the money from, and we'll look forward to other projects, I'm sure.
Other questions?
Yeah, and just for further context too, for the public and maybe for all of us on the board, this has been kind of looming over our heads for a while, and in my calculus, it was part of that overall conversation about looking at our comp study and our capital improvement plan and our financial management plan and the 1% sales tax that we'll be paying off soon. And so it's great that we're able to capture this and kind of include all that in. We have to pass a new financial management plan now, right?
Mm-hmm. We'll have to factor this in because it's not in there.
Right. So, but it's good to be able to capture that. It really helps us all the way around, and helping to kind of keep our levy as low as we can. We can incorporate that with confidence now.
Other questions, comments? All right.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. One other thing I wanted to mention this morning, we continue to work with BKV Group on planning for the Judicial Center. As a reminder for the public, this is something that the board allocated $25,000 plus expenses for us to develop site and floor plans for that facility in support of our bonding application to the state. And so last week, we had more meetings with stakeholders to kind of ground truth the information that we discussed 2 weeks prior, make sure everything adequately reflected what the needs are. And then Friday morning, we sat down with the consultant and went through some preliminary designs on how both the additions to the law enforcement center and the judicial center could be constructed. One thing that the board has been pretty clear about is that I think there's pretty strong support for addressing space needs at the law enforcement center. And so the way that the architect is proposing to phase this, the additions to the LEC would actually occur on the north side of the building. And those are separate from the judicial center, which would be oriented more on the south side of the building. And so if there is a desire or a need to phase the projects, there's an opportunity to do that. So that's a good thing. The other thing is the site itself is a little bit complicated. There's topography, there's a pretty significant slope running from north to south down toward the big lake. And that creates challenges from an architectural and construction standpoint. What we still don't know and can't know at this point, because we're not at that point in the process, is how far down we go before we hit rock. We have drainage issues on the north side of the building currently. We have water that is running across the parking lot and toward the Sally Port. And but for some subsidence that has occurred with the pavement there's actually a little dam that has formed. But that also means that there's a puddle that forms in front of the Sally Port, which creates a sheet of ice. So in the winter, you have, not only can you not fit an ambulance in the Sally Port, but you have people walking across and potentially transporting folks across ice. And so there are a number of issues there. What we'd like to do with the addition to the law enforcement center on the north side is create a slope away from the building. I mean, that's kind of construction 101, right? And that would require presumably some blasting. And so how much depends on how the addition is oriented. It also depends a lot on parking. Parking is emerging as one of the big challenges with this building because, with the addition of a courthouse and court offices, you're talking about a lot more people going to that location. And so you need sufficient parking for all the people who would be working there, also visitors to the building. So there are a number of challenges that we're working through. But I've been very impressed with the thoughtfulness that Henry Pittner has. He's the principal that we're working with. He's brought a lot of really good ideas to our discussions. He's listened really well to all the stakeholders. And I feel really good about where the process is going. There's still a lot of questions that we need to answer, and we really have not started talking about potential costs. That's not where we are in the process right now. It's really just about scoping out needs and figuring out how could those needs be met. I do expect that as we refine the design and start getting into conversations about cost, that will affect the design of the building. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how could the building look and how could it be designed to meet the needs of the court administration, probation, the county attorney's office, and other users of the building. So I'd also like to mention that Commissioner White joined us for the meetings Thursday and Friday last week, and would invite you, Commissioner, if you have any thoughts or comments that you'd like to share about what you heard.
I have something to say, yes, thank you.
Okay.
He
And
was a-
actually, you know what, Robert's rules, the chair needs to recognize you. I can't do that, sorry.
Commissioner White.
Yes. It was a very productive meeting. He is indeed very thoughtful, had a lot of options like, if we were to move this space here, then how would the flow, there was a focus on safety and security for the weapon cache that we seem to have in evidence that they have to get rid of somehow, and they have to be melted down somewhere, so I thought that was an interesting thing.
And the sheriff shared that.
Yes,
Some of
he
those
shared all
weapons-
that with
he-
us, so this is an issue that they have. They have a lot of things in evidence,
Right.
and they really need the space. So I felt the Henry, in his interactions with the department heads, it was very thoughtful. Everyone had an opportunity from their perspective as to how different options would work for them. And I thought they were putting Henry and his consultants, there was Melissa one day, Paul on another. Obviously, they have put a lot of work, a lot of thought into the design. It was very, I feel a very good, our money is being well spent on this.
Thank you for that feedback.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, oh,
Madam Chair, the other thing I'd note is, in sitting through this process and talking with Henry about different ways of organizing office spaces and so on, it is literally a three-dimensional puzzle. And it's funny how if you decide you're going to put an elevator shaft in one location, that has an impact on all the floors and the space available to configure offices and so on. And I'm glad he's doing it and not me, because it's really difficult work, but obviously he enjoys it and he's very skilled with it. And so still a lot of work to do, but I feel, again, really good about the process we've had so far and the preliminary results that we're getting.
Commissioner Sullivan. And Rowan was integral. I mean, what they do, how he's going to have to, the spaces to work out of, to how they have to move things. That was really, I don't know how you would do it without that
Yeah.
input.
And another consideration, I mean, currently, we don't even have a space for maintenance to keep a cart. Currently, the cart is kept in the mechanical room, and that's not a good arrangement. So with a larger building, you're going to have more maintenance needs, more janitorial needs, and so just thinking about spaces for keeping supplies and equipment for maintenance, there are really a lot of things that we have to think about that the current building currently doesn't provide, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner White.
They will no longer have to clear the lunchroom table so they can eat. The evidence will be in a space of its own.
So,
Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What are the odds that the orchard on the south side will be able to stay there? 0?
so I think the way it's being proposed, it will encroach on the footprint of the orchard. To what degree is not clear yet.
Bummer. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Oh, and then how far north are we looking? Is it just to the property line there, I presume, or not even that far?
So the additional space would go out to basically where the sidewalk is now along the north side of the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there would be like an access road above that, maybe?
There would be a
Or-
drive above that with a single row of parking
Okay.
on the north side of the drive. And again, that would probably require some blasting, so.
Thank you.
Commissioner White.
Did you write down the number of, Henry calculated how many parking spaces? If everybody showed up on the same time in the day and we were having a forest fire emergency, how many spaces for parking? Do you recollect what he said?
I want to say it was on the order of 150, I think, but don't quote me on that.
And there's no street parking option in this location
Well, people do park on the street there, but it's not ideal.
because it's a truck route.
Oh.
On County Road 7, but yeah, on the
Right,
Gunflint, on the
right.
Gunflint, yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. It's not allowed on the Gunflint, or because it's a truck route, it's?
Well, it's just a
It's
danger.
a truck
Gotcha.
route, so
That's
it's
all.
dangerous.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, not ideal.
All right. Other items?
Yes, so I also want to mention, continue to work with CRBPS. They have provided a scope of work for getting the deferred maintenance projects defined for RFP to issue to contractors. So that's proceeding, and we'll have more information about that next time.
Thank you.
Those are the biggies.
All right. Commissioner Hawkins, Commissioner update.
Let's see, yesterday I was at a Northeast Minnesota Office of Job Training meeting. Well, actually, it was a Zoom meeting, special meeting, to ratify the contract. So they have settled on we voted to approve the 3-year contract for that organization. I was also at an extension committee meeting to discuss needs there at the community center as far as staffing and what we maybe need to think about in the future about those operations and making best use of our employees' time and management of the facilities, because there's a lot for one person to take over when you consider the ball fields and the skate park and all of the other things that go into that used to just fall on Diane Booth. And maybe that, well, we know it wasn't quite fair to Diane, and let's make sure we don't burn out the next person and people. So whether or not that means how we restructure in our departments or moving some or oversight of some facilities to different places, that might work. So the discussions, that was a beginning discussion of what's possible. And so that's my updates as far as meetings I've attended.
All right, thank you. Commissioner
Madam
White.
Chair?
Oh, excuse me.
I was just going to add, I was in that meeting as well, and just want to recognize the great work that Sarah Waddle is doing. She's really not only managing things right now, but also taking the long view and trying to plan for the future and doing that in a really thoughtful way. And it was a really good discussion. Really appreciate the ideas that she put together.
Commissioner White.
Yes, yesterday I was at the Council on Aging at the Hub. I want to, they have a need for 2 new board members. And they have, and they're financially doing really well. They're planning for fundraisers for this coming year. One thing that I said I would promote again for them is their food program for $4.50 if one meets the criteria, like you have to be 62 or 65 and fill out a form that your meal is $4.50. You can eat on site, you can pick up, and they will actually, excuse me, they will save meals for you if you want to pick up 5 different meals to take home, then you can do that. And that's all at $4.50. And this is from the AEOA. This is a wonderful Arrowhead Economic Opportunities. AEOA. What's agency? Agency. This is a program that really benefits our community. I was at, where was I at? As Administrator Yorkie said, I was Thursday and Friday, or not really participating, but listening in on the Henry and the architect and his conversations with the department heads, which was a really good use of time. I was also the Aquatic Invasive Species meeting. there was low attendance, but it was surprisingly, many years ago, when the state offered counties the option of doing pullover inspections for licenses and for if your boat equipment. This is for people that will be going out in the waters. Our county declined, did not want to have the permission to do that because there was a fear of impacting tourism. So I've said that I would go after, this is what, that it was turned down. So I'm on the hunt for finding the right person, pushing it through. The right person has been found, but has been promoted, so now we need to go farther again. There is a form to be filled out to give Cook County permission to have on Highway 61, to stop incoming or exiting boats, to make certain that they have their plugs out, so they're not bringing Wisconsin or Illinois water. I guess those are the two biggest offenders coming into the county, along with what their water might have in it. So that was a big thing. So I, knowing that I can be tenacious and I can just, can't say it on camera, that I will stay on it until I find the right person. It's a number of phone calls and time and finding the right person. That committee wants to just have the form sent, or give us the form, we'll fill it out, then we will sign it and get it to you for you to sign it, and then we can check the boats coming into the county. That's the biggest thing. One more thing was I believe we met, the Healthy Housing Network with Andrea Orris. That again was another committee that shows how this community is working hard for its community members. She secured, Andrea, or the organization, secured another grant of $20,000 that will be able to do the next step of helping 4, maybe, not property owners necessarily, but renters to upgrade. Perhaps I just misspoke. But to help people get a better, maybe replace a window or two, more than just putting, more than putting fire alarms and different things in. It's the next step up. There's a little more money. She continues to go after more money for helping our people that live here. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioner Mills.
Since our last meeting, we did the North Shore Collaborative Strategic Planning, and that was really great. And attendance was not as high as I was hoping, but still had really good participation. And it was facilitated by Barb Caskey, who I found out the next day is leaving AHA, so that's a big loss for that organization. She's a wonderful woman who is really involved in the region and with the Children's Cabinet as well, and so it'll be a big loss. But it was a really great strategic planning session, and we have some follow-up. It felt really good to get that input from all of our stakeholders. Then also had the Northwoods Food Project, and again, accolades to Sarah Waddle for her work with just really bringing energy into the community with both the community center and really trying to bring, and the farmers market, and really trying to, or the food market, really trying to bring more resources to enable more local food production. I really try to bolster farmers and even just getting people into gardening or hobby farming or whatever, food preservation, kind of everything around that, maybe cottage industry stuff. So there's a lot of federal money and state money through the Infrastructure Act to try to bolster those systems up. And with the creation of the meat processing facility down at NERC. There's another opportunity there that hopefully we can kind of leverage off of, but other talks are, around deep winter greenhouses or community root cellar type of situation, or mobile chicken processing. You don't need the full facility like NERC for that sort of thing, but of course there's a limited capacity both with staff and volunteers, so it's kind of like who can take on what. But there's a lot going on there. It's very encouraging. And then kind of on that note, also had a visit with MPCA. This isn't necessarily county business, but I just want to keep everyone in the loop about that composting kind of pilot. So they came and looked at the site, had a good conversation, and again, just kind of wait and see where Lake County can deliver or not, and just what the whole comprehensive part of that is. And I think that was all since our last, of course, building committee too, and just kudos to Rowan working with the security systems and really honing in on what we need in our building and what's going to be the most flexible in the future as well. So really impressed with his work there. Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Storley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a good turnout for the composting discussion. We had all three townships represented quite nicely, and we came to the conclusion that we would like to see something at the recycle center for composting. Other discussions were interesting about how people compost or don't, and have tried it and didn't work. So, we'll get further information on that, but it was a good discussion at our end. I attended the North Shore Scenic Drive Council, and we have representatives from all different areas, and one of them is MnDOT. And you have to kind of be patient now, but in 2027, the resurfacing of Tofty to the county line will start. So that is a big asset right there to think. And then I'm driving down the road in other areas thinking, no, it has to be Tofty, because as you bounce along, and some of it could be a tad bit of frost, but I don't think so. Anyway, so that was good news. They gave a whole update of all of their MnDOT projects all over northeastern Minnesota, which is always interesting about what they do. And as we travel along too, I think Highway 23 will have some projects going on there also. So we just have to keep that in mind when we travel. Melissa Dressley puts out that nice little travel pamphlet, a little booklet there, and she and another gal are considering updating all the waysides so that people know that there's handicap accessibility, if there is a bathroom, just what the amenities are for parking and all that. So I think that'll be a project worth pursuing in the future with her. Tonight I have my marathon between the three townships. They have annual meetings twice a year, and folks gather to talk about their budgeting and their levy and anything else that's important. One of the unusual situations for Schroeder is that they had no citizen step up to be clerk. So now they'll be voting on hiring someone to be their clerk, which is the first in many, many, many years that they've had to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. I will end up my evening with them, and they have a very long agenda, too, of other things that they're going to discuss. So, but I think that's kind of the sign of our times, that we want our citizens to be active. And in Lutsen, we have one supervisor that's up for re-election. Other than that, nobody else is within the three townships. So they talk about their budget, and then we come back again in August, and then we set the final levy in August. So that's where I am with all that.
All right, well, thank you very much. So I had an opportunity at the end of February to participate in the C-Club meeting. We're continuing to search for a new executive director, given the departure of Kat Mayo. Earth Day is, all the booths are starting to fill up. That'll be on the 20th of April at ISD 166, so a new venue this year. And Emma Adams of CCLEP is working on that. Fire-wise, big discussion obviously is the early fire season, all the red flag warnings and concerns that we have given not only our drought conditions, moderate drought, but also given all the spruce bedworm that we have standing or on the forest floor. And some of the good news is that yesterday, Administrator Yorkie and I and Aaron Mollenking, who is our Firewise coordinator, and also Mike Keyport, Emergency Management, met with the U.S. Forest Service and with the USDA Undersecretary, and they have announced a significant amount of grants for wildfire mitigation. And so we can start making applications. The first round is due middle of April, so we're going to get going on those right away. But it really gives us great opportunity in Cook County, lots of resources that we otherwise wouldn't have. It was interesting to me that they see the Superior National Forest as the most vulnerable or flammable of any forest in the eastern half of the United States right now. And so we really appreciate the federal support and the funding that's going to come available. And so we'll be working on those grants collaboratively. Rainy River, Vermilion, Headwaters, One Watershed, One Plan got together, and as you know, talked about budget and just developed a work plan summary. And in April, we'll be heading to both Duluth and down to the Twin Cities to meet with Bowser and support that effort. And then our Soil and Water Conservation District is looking to maintain their current level of funding. Right now, they get about $15 million statewide per year. The way it's structured is it could potentially go down to $12 million next year, so they are advocating to maintain their funding, and they will be meeting with our legislators on Friday when they are up in Grand Portage to try to convince them that that's an important need that we have here in the county and throughout the state. And that would be it for my updates. Commissioner Mills.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I recalled another update, just that Mayor Benson and I have not yet met regarding the cannabis exploration or the cannabis dispensary exploration. I did make contact, though, with the Office of Cannabis Management. One of the assistants to Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan is on that, and so been in communication a little bit. And the task force there is really looking at the ordinances, ordinance recommendations, as well as guidance or clarity on permitting, and those are kind of some of my larger questions for her, was where a municipal dispensary would fit into that system, if there was preference for municipalities, or if we're just going to be in it like everybody else. I know they have preference for, individuals who are impacted by the prohibition of cannabis in the past, but it's still not clear to me how that all fits in with the municipal. So waiting to hear back on that, but just wanted to give that update. Connections and kind of those little paths of exploration are happening still. Just I do have concerns about the timing of everything and what I hear in the news about the kind of the push for it before I think ordinances are prepared sufficiently. So, and Mayor Benson was just asking if we've have Attorney Hicken and Sheriff Eliason to bounce ideas off of too, and I said, yeah, as needed, they're very available. So, but that's the only update there on that front.
Thank you for that. We have a number of meetings coming up, a long list posted, and some correspondence for all of us. And then we have recognition of staff. Andrew Ashcroft with the Law Enforcement Center, 1 year. Connor Ingram with the Highway Department, also 1 year. Leanne Avery at our Community Center, 2 years. Todd Ford, also 2 years as our Public Information Officer. Amanda Weberg, Soil and Water, 4 years. Warren Hagan with the Highway Department, 18 years. And Kim Shepard up in Court Administration, 27 years. So, pretty incredible set of anniversaries. And then Courtney, over in Auditor Powers' office, 30 years, 3 decades. And I was thinking about that the night of the primary election and seeing her work her magic in there and just thinking about all the knowledge and the skills that she has that benefit your office and the people of Cook County. It's amazing. All right, well, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there support? Support. Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good day.
I didn't get your emails from yesterday until